The hard place, like a wind from Goldland he sweeps by, blown far from his homeland in search of glory and honor. We walk in the garden of his turbulence.
Movie fans, welcome to Movie Joust. I'm Jason Evans. I will be shepherding you through the wilderness on this week's episode. I'm joined by my buddies, always with me, Jesse Nussman and Josh Sewell. Jesse, why don't you go first? What's up, man? You look like you're drinking some nice coffee there.
Yeah, I've got my nice Curb Your Enthusiasm mug, which you can purchase on HBO.com if you want to time travel back to the year 2020 when this mug was available. I don't think they sell it anymore, so you're shit out of luck. But yeah, having some nice Dunkin' Donuts coffee.
Very nice. Josh, how are you today?
Doing good. Got a little bit of a fall break from my day job, so today is reserved for catching up on all the stuff I didn't have time to do because I was doing the other stuff. So
you're going to finish all 2 seasons of The Summer I Turned Pretty.
That's what it is.
Bond with your daughter, right?
To get ready for the upcoming movie, apparently. Like, they couldn't finish the show on the show.
Yeah, my girlfriend was so mad when that happened. That's
It's like, that's how you do it. You alienate your fan base.
Yeah, you get to the final episode, it's like, surprise, it's not a finale.
And now you got to spend money to see how it ends.
The X-Files tried to do that, I think, and it did not work out very well for them.
I mean,
Exactly.
Mandalorian is doing that, basically, which we'll talk about next year. But
I was going to say, I feel like that's a little different. I feel like everybody's sort of like, oh, yeah, this feels like this could be theatrical. Go ahead. But yeah, I don't know, when you got to, I don't know. We're off topic. Sorry, I'm supposed to be leading us, and I've led us down the wrong path. Actually, you guys went down the wrong path, and I joined you. I'm back in charge because we're going to get to the movies, and we're going to primarily be talking this week about The Smashing Machine, the new Benny Safdie movie that stars Dwayne The Rock Johnson playing a wrestler. I know it's a big stretch for him. No, sorry. But we're going to be talking Best Actor race, and in addition, talking about The Smashing Machine and the performance by Dwayne Johnson. We're also going to talk a little bit about Anemone and Daniel Day-Lewis's return to the big screen. Josh and I have not seen Anemone. I will go ahead and say that they screened it on Yom Kippur, and
What are you going to do, man?
kind of pissed off at them about doing that. Very, very cruel to your Jewish film critics out there to scream it on Yom Kippur, but that's the day that they did the screening. So
I don't think you missed much.
Yeah, I didn't miss much. There you go. So Jesse with the advanced spoilers on Anemone.
Yeah.
And why did you, speaking of, why'd you miss the first Smashing Machine screening, Jason?
They screened that one on Rosh Hashanah.
Dang.
But
This year's award season, very, very anti-Jewish, very anti-Semitic.
Exactly. Yeah, exactly. But no, they were good about that. They did provide me with another opportunity to see The Smashing Machine. They actually told me that they'll pay for me to go see Anemone. I'm not sure I'm going to bother.
I wouldn't bother, but we can get to that when we get to that.
Let's start with The Smashing Machine, though, and this is going to lead us all into a little conversation about best actor, although I'm going to go ahead and say I think it's too early for us to be talking about best actor, but we'll get to that a little bit later. Yeah. Let's stay on course with The Smashing Machine, which is the story about MMA, mixed martial arts, ultimate fighting, whatever you want to call it, fighter named Mark Kerr. It is a true biopic, and Jesse, why don't you, can you give me a little bit of a summary of what this film's about? Maybe your eyes are wide. You're like, I don't want to do this.
Yeah, no, it's more. I thought you were about to team me up with like, Jesse, you're more into MMA than I am. Why don't you describe it? I'm like, wrong. I have like zero experience with this world.
That's your hobby, right? You do that on the weekends?
Yeah, I've watched a maximum of 2 boxing matches in my life. So yeah, I guess that makes me qualified. But yeah, so this is basically, it is a biopic about Mark Kerr, who, as I understand, was kind of one of the early stars of the MMA sporting movement in the late 1990s. Really, when this stuff was kind of like, I did some research into kind of like where all of this was at the time that the movie was happening, and really this stuff is kind of like the Wild West when the movie is taking place. It is not the sort of, you know, big multi-million dollar, probably billion-dollar industry that it is now, where like fighters are celebrities and, you know, the president of the United States is talking about having, you know, a fight on the White House lawn or something like that. Like, this is very much like a more obscure sport at the time that this is happening. And Mark Kerr, as I said, this early star in the industry who battled opioid addiction, and that affected his career. And I don't know want to, you know, spoil too much other than to say this is a movie that is more, I saw someone on Letterboxd describe this as what it's like to fall from Apex Mountain. That's basically kind of what the movie is about. I think it is, you know, in pairing with, if anyone's ever seen Lenny Cook, the documentary that the Safdie brothers did about this like nationally renowned high school basketball prospect who didn't end up becoming the big star that he was sort of promised that he was going to be, and how that sort of mentally affected his life and how he had to just sort of like move on from that. And yeah, so it's a sports movie, but it's a sports movie that's kind of more about like someone who's being promised to be kind of the next great athlete and doesn't quite get there. I think like that is not a spoiler to say, and is maybe like good knowing that going into the movie.
Right, and it's also a relationship movie. It's about his
Yes.
relationship, what is I think a fairly destructive relationship with his girlfriend slash fiance Dawn, played by Emily Blunt.
I think saying
Yeah,
it's saying it's codependent would be putting it mildly.
yeah,
Yeah.
exactly. And I also want to be clear, because I had someone say to me the other day, they were like, "Oh, this is a wrestling movie." No, this is not. This is not. This is not the thing that Dwayne The Rock Johnson comes out of. This is not WWF, which is, as we all know, even though those guys are athletes, it's scripted and planned. This is true fighting. And in fact, one of the points they make in the movie is that it's different fighting. You know, like, oh, I'm going to fight a guy who was originally a wrestler now, and next I'm going to fight a guy who does jujitsu, and then a guy who does karate.
I didn't know that. I didn't know that's how it worked, or especially in the early days.
Yeah, and they're sort of trying to say both who's the best and also which style is the best for winning these matches. And most of the fights and most of what was going on in this industry was taking place in Japan at the time. So there's a lot of like, you know, flying back and forth kind of stuff, and negotiating languages and things.
Cultural difference, comedy, that kind of thing. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. So, but let's get to the movie itself. I'll go ahead and start by saying that I thought that Dwayne Johnson's performance to me was the best thing about this movie. I think the film itself is
Easily.
the doesn't stitch together in a really satisfying way, in my opinion. There are good performances all over the place. I actually really want to shout out. There's a guy named Ryan Bader who is a
Yes.
he not someone who has a history as an actor. He plays like
This
Mark
this is his
Kerr.
first film.
Yeah. He plays the friend of the main character, another wrestler named Mark Coleman, and great in it. I would argue
I would
that-
almost say they have the more interesting romance than him and
Yes.
Emily Blunt do. Of like, that's the much more interesting relationship in the movie. But continue, yeah.
Yeah, I kind of wish the movie had pursued more of the two of them.
Exactly.
than it did.
Yeah.
100%.
Yeah.
I don't think we're gonna do much jousting here, guys.
I will say I like this movie, but I'm also like, when I've talked about it with people, I've said sort of put it in the category of like, I think you can kind of wait for this to like arrive on streaming or like VOD. I mean, I know going to the movies is like very expensive nowadays, and I don't know that this is like what, you know, sorry, Benny Safdie, but like I don't know that this is like what I would spend your hard-earned money to go see in the theater. But I think it is definitely worth seeing for how good Dwayne Johnson is in the movie. And this will hopefully put to rest the, in my opinion, kind of stupid argument of like, is he a good actor? Which is like, yeah, he's always been like, I've always felt he was a very like talented performer and has a like innate charisma. But this is really like the first time that he is sort of putting himself in, I think, a much more challenging role, and a role that maybe for the first time causes him to sort of like disappear a little bit, in the sense that you don't feel like you're watching a Dwayne Johnson movie star performance. Here you're watching, you buy him as this other person.
Really quick, I was going to say that to me was why I thought it was such a great performance on his part, because usually when I'm watching Dwayne Johnson, I'm like, I'm watching Dwayne Johnson. And I felt like he gave me a true character here. And Mark Kerr has lots of quirks, like just even the way he talks is a little different. I'd
Yeah.
never for a moment, his look, and I want to get into the way Dwayne Johnson transforms his body and saying, but I never for a moment felt like I was watching Dwayne Johnson. And usually I just feel like, oh, it's playing Dwayne Johnson, the same character he always plays. Maybe he's interacting with kids, maybe he's interacting with monsters, but whatever it may be, he's always himself. And this film, he is not the same thing. I do want to mention, I'm not sure there's anyone else in Hollywood who could have played this role because of the way he bulks up. I mean, like, he's even bigger than he was as a wrestler.
Yeah.
I'm sure it took months of hard work for him to I mean, he's already got a huge body, and probably he could have played this role the way he looks when he is, Black Adam or any other character. But he was like, no, to do justice to Mark Kerr, I need to look like Mark Kerr. And Mark Kerr was fucking huge.
Yeah.
And he was. And Dwayne Johnson really, like, his shoulders, his neck, it is a body transformation that I think, part of the acting performance needs to be the preparation. Man, his preparation was probably super intense.
But it's also,
I think.
Go ahead, Josh, because there's another thing about the performance I wanted to bring up. But go ahead.
Yeah, I was gonna say I think the film is kind of meta in a way, in that Johnson finds himself, in a far less devastating way than what happened to Kerr. Like, I don't think, Dwayne Johnson's life was ever in danger, right? But he finds himself kind of where Kerr is in this movie, where, like, when you've proclaimed yourself the next big thing in Hollywood. What was it he said about Black Adam, about like how the DC universe is going to change?
Going to change the I mean, it did change the paradigm in the DC universe.
Yeah.
It's not in the way he thought.
Yeah, and so when you go from being like the first guy that Hollywood calls for their action movies, I don't think, I think even Johnson wouldn't disagree that he was kind of coasting there for a little while. He thought that everybody just loved what he was doing, that he could be the same guy, whether it was an R-rated action movie or a PG kids movie. I think it's telling that his only successes in the last few years at the box office have been animated films where you hear his voice and don't see him. Moana 2, the DC Super Pets movie. So I think that freed him up a little bit, the fact that he's buried under mountains of prosthetics in this film, that like it doesn't feel like he's front and center in the film, even though he is. Maybe psychologically that helped him disappear a little bit. I think making himself vulnerable also helps him here. In all of his other movies, there's nothing to root for. That story came out a couple of years ago about how actors like him and Jason Statham have it in their contracts, like, I can only be hit like 6 times because heroes can't be vulnerable. And the fact that this movie is about a guy falling from the top, to hitting rock bottom, lets him stretch some muscles, no pun intended, that he hasn't got to use in a while.
He loses more than he wins in this movie for the most part, I think.
Yeah, I mean, it's about losing. Yeah.
Yeah. And that's part of my issue with the film. I know one of our colleagues, Kyle Pinion, was talking to his buddies, and they were like, why did they make a movie out of this? And he was like, I don't know. Like, there's nothing really inherently cinematic about his journey,
Yeah, I think I've sort of like defended that of, I think in thinking about this in connection to something like Lenny Cook has helped me maybe understand it a little bit better, which is like what is interesting about his life to Benny Safdie is like what does it feel like to be top of the world, and then all of a sudden like you aren't the next generation athlete that you were sort of promised to be, and then like how do
But
you pick
really,
yourself
so
back
hold on.
up again?
Really quick, if that's the story that Benny Safdie wanted to tell, and I agree with you, I think maybe it is. I think the film doesn't do a good enough job of getting us up to the highs, and then doesn't do a good enough job of really demonstrating I guess the depths of the lows, and then how do we fight back from that. I feel a lot of the movies are sort of like, oh, it's happening. This is what's happening next. And I didn't get, again, narratively, why we're going to these different places and why we're doing these different things. And frankly, we haven't mentioned Emily Blunt very much. We haven't mentioned the girlfriend character, who is
there's a reason
such
for
a wet
that.
such a wet blanket. Like,
Yeah,
there are a couple
I felt
moments-
really bad for Emily. I mean,
Yeah.
she's good in Oppenheimer, I guess, but this is like the second time in a row where it's like, oh, are we gonna do the like it's time for Emily Blunt performance where she's basically just playing like the hysterical girlfriend or wife of like I don't think she's bad in this movie, but I just sort of that was the part of the movie where I was like, if we're gonna spend so much time on their relationship, like I kind of want more. I just wanted more out of that character and more sort of internal life for that character, as opposed to like it's a lot of Emily Blunt looking, impeccable, but just like sliding down walls and like screaming and crying the entire time.
Yeah, it's weird that as an actor, and I get, I'm not an actress in Hollywood. I don't know what roles look like, but I mean, what the availability looks like. She's an Oscar-nominated actress, and her last two films have essentially boiled down to like women. Am I right? Like it's just mentally unstable partners of the more interesting guy. And at least in Oppenheimer, her character had a through line. Here,
at least she got a big monologue that was like, well, at least you get a show-stopping moment. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Here, her character has no arc. It's like she's two different characters. In one half, she's the supportive girlfriend who, is doing her best to help Mark get through this devastating time in his life. And then, you can't really spoil real life, I guess, but like all the stuff that you expect to happen in a sports biopic happens by the halfway point of this film. The whole like rock bottom, go to rehab, get better. You still got an hour of movie left after that. And at that point, Emily Blunt's an entirely different character who's like, you trying to get your life together is ruining my buzz, man. And it's like, where did you come from? Like, you're not who you were 2 scenes ago.
There are at least 2 moments in this movie where where Mark Kerr, the main character, contemplates leaving her. And I'm like, yeah, leave her. Dude, she's bad news.
Yeah.
What are you doing? Why are you still with this person? And then I love, again, spoilers, but whatever. At the very end, there's a little crawl that goes, they got married for 6 years. And I'm like, they got divorced? Shocking.
Or even like if that's gonna be the thing, like I would rather like see the seeds of like that them coming back together, other than just sort of like I always like hate the little like text crawls at the end of biopics. It's just sort of like, hey, here's the stuff we couldn't get to because of time. Or
it's not interesting enough.
Yeah, and I do think her and Johnson have like great chemistry together, and like their scenes together. It gets to the thing that I think is sort of the secret sauce about the Johnson performance, which is like he's a gentle giant. Like for as like big and bulking as he is, like he like talks in like a little bit of a whisper, and he's like like incredibly like polite to everyone.
He's
like
almost got a lisp. He almost has a lisp.
Yeah, like there's the one scene of the match that he loses that then, like in any other sporting movie, you would think like the athlete would like explode because like there was a foul or, the other fighter did something that was illegal. And he just sort of like very politely, but like nervously goes up to one of the refs and is just like, hey, I gotta let you know this was not fair. I gotta tell you, like, if you could just please do this, that would be great. And like that sort of gentleness, I think, is something that really comes out in like their scenes together. Like I love the whole scene at the fair and the carnival where he's like doesn't want to get on the ride because he's got stomach issues, which like I feel you, bro. But like that, I wanted more of that, and like the just life and chemistry of these two people to come through.
No? Well, let's do it. Who's the best?
There's no way I can't write that.
Why?
Why? Because of my tummy. You know what that would do to my tummy. I would get sick everywhere.
No, it's about perspective, okay? On the inside, you don't feel it. It's like you're not moving. You're like pinned against the wall, and you're gonna love it. You're gonna love it.
It doesn't move on the inside?
It moves, but it's moving so fast that you can't even feel it.
I really want to go on the ride with her, but I have a sensitive stomach. Is there the center part in there? That's the thing that stays still, right? Can I stand in there, in the middle part?
In the center part?
Yes.
No, that'd be a serious liability issue.
Well, where would you recommend I stand then? Because I don't want to get sick on the ride, but I do want to ride with her.
You don't want to get sick on the ride? I would suggest you don't go on the ride if you can't handle it.
Okay.
I just want to say there is a documentary that was on HBO about a decade ago or so about Mark Kerr. And I think that this movie is very much like almost of that documentary. I have not seen the documentary. It was highly praised, and I know a couple people who've seen it who say, "Yeah, don't bother with the movie.
Just
See
watch
the documentary and say the documentary is better than the movie." But I want to move us. I want to quickly move us to what we, sort of the other intended purpose of this episode, which is to talk a little bit about the Best Actor race. Let me start by asking you guys: do you think that there are 5 spots? And granted, we haven't seen a lot of the performances yet. There's, I would say that this is a bit of a premature conversation, considering we have not seen Timothée Chalamet and Marty Supreme. We haven't seen Jesse Plemons in Bugonia. We haven't seen Jeremy Allen White in the Springsteen movie. We haven't seen Oscar Isaacs in Frankenstein. We haven't seen George Clooney and Jay Kelly. There's a lot of stuff still to come. But of what you've seen so far this year, do you think Dwayne The Rock Johnson is a likely nominee for Best Actor? Josh,
I'm conflicted.
Go first.
Because he checks all the usual Oscar boxes. It's a most, not best. He's doing really big things against type. Like, from that perspective, I feel like he's got a shot. He's also by far the best thing about an otherwise decent to mixed movie.
Right.
But I also think his performance is kind of the movie in a whole. Like, a lot of the movie's issues can be sort of filtered through the prism of his performance. Like, Benny Safdie, the way he shoots is like, okay, I want this to look like it was filmed in the late 90s, early 2000s, like the documentary. It's like, cool. It looks great. Why do you need IMAX for that? This is not an IMAX film, and it's like, he's a gentle, and you've got the gentle giant aspect of his performance against the just complete brutality of these fights. Like, you feel every punch and every kick. And from that perspective, it's also a truly dynamic athletic performance. And you really get a heart for his character there, like in the first fight where he just obliterates this guy and immediately is like, is he okay? I want to check on him. And the ref's like, you can't go over there. Like, that's the part of the performance that I think is really going to catch Oscar voters, where they're, what they might want to vote for. But is it the part that questions me, or that makes me question, is he going to get it, is he's very much the selling point of an otherwise is that it kind of movie. And granted, people have been nominated for those kind of movies a bunch.
I was going to say that it's not that long ago that we got like the Shart that was like The Whale, and then
exactly.
Joker as well. Of like, there's
some would argue Chalamet in the Bob Dylan movie. I liked it more than a lot of people, but a lot of people were mixed on that movie.
That movie's
I was very mixed on that movie. Yeah.
That movie's at least like fun in the way that like this movie isn't.
So in that respect, I still think, even though I'm mixed on it, based on typical Oscar voter trajectory, I think he's still got a shot.
What do you think, Jesse?
I think so too. I think whether he wins or not will be, we'll see. Out of the ones you've mentioned, like, I've not heard that much great things about the Oscar Isaac and Frankenstein performance. Mm-hmm. So I think that's maybe out of it, but we can, come back to that. For me, I wanted to throw out some people who, I think we should not forget of, like, Leonardo, I'm gonna once again be like, this is one of the best Leonardo DiCaprio performances,
Yep.
and of like
Yep.
that. I mean, that's probably my winner. Thus, you know, at this point in time, I think like Denzel is like Josh and I talked about it is like unreal good in the highest to lowest, the Spike Lee movie.
He's getting zero buzz for that. That's
But like
and
he should. He's so good. Like
by the way, when I was giving that list earlier, I intentionally left out the ones we've already seen, like Leo in One Battle, Michael B. Jordan in Sinners. I think Michael B. Jordan, I'll be shocked if he doesn't get a nomination. I don't know if he's going to win, but I think he's got one of the spots locked up. I'll tell you a film I saw this week. We're not going to talk about it extensively. I saw Kiss of the Spider Woman, and Tonatia, who's the lead in that film, is really great. I think that movie's so uneven and kind of weird that I don't think it's going to get much other attention. But I could see him getting a real shot at a Best Actor spot. And there are a couple others. I mean, we haven't seen No Other Choice. Lee Byung-hun is getting a ton of buzz for that film. And there's apparently a Brazilian film called The Secret Agent.
Oh,
where the lead actor,
with
forgot about that.
Wagner Moura.
Wakamura is getting like.
I mean, he won
variety,
Best
like,
Actor at
as a
Cannes
favorite.
for that. So I mean, that's possible.
As we learned last year, there is a huge Brazilian contingent of Academy
that
voters.
is true.
So, yeah.
That is true. Yeah,
The
and I
foreign
mean,
winning
like,
the Academy is flexing. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I would also throw out, but he'll probably be more in the supporting actor conversation for One Battle After Another. Like, I thought Benicio del Toro was really, really good in the Wes Anderson movie that we fought about, a
Venetian
few months
Scheme,
ago.
yeah.
I'm some of these that people are. Here's maybe where I'm going to throw a little bit of my hot takes in this. Like, I wonder if some of these that people are leaving like placeholders for are going to fall through because, like I'll use, for example, like this is where I'll talk about Anemone a little bit of like Daniel Day-Lewis back from retiring. Everyone's like, oh my God, he's definitely, I mean, it's Daniel Day-Lewis. He's definitely going to get
It's in the bag.
Yeah. I saw,
he gets nominated more often than he doesn't.
Right. I saw the movie last night. It's not that he's bad. Like saying Daniel Day-Lewis is great is kind of like saying water is wet and fire is hot. Like it's just a given at this point. But the movie is such both a slog and is like self-serious and is also so like stripped down and kind of at like arm's reach from its characters, even more so than like The Smashing Machine, that like I was kind of dozing off in the theater, and I kind of wonder if that like people would be a little bit like a voter watches that and is like, he has 3 Oscars at this point, and this is like, he's not bad, but this is like, it, weirdly enough, a little bit of a similar thought to another movie that I think, Jason, you'll know what I'm talking about, but we'll talk about it at the end of the month, that we saw this past week, where I kind of walked out being like, that's a good idea, but I don't know that was enough of a good idea to like sustain a full 2-hour movie, is kind of how I thought about Anemone. So like, I wonder with some of these, like, I kind of don't think Day-Lewis is going to be part of the conversation, because I think people are going to see that movie and just be like, or be like, it's nice that he like starred in his son's movie and, he's always good, but like, this isn't really anything. Like,
this does seem like a year where a lot of these, like you said, these placeholder, like this award season, as somebody who still has a lot of movies to see, has sort of landed with a resounding meh to everything almost.
Yeah,
and
like the Jay Kelly reaction, like it seems like
not One Battle,
like,
no, the festival type stuff.
Okay.
Yeah, but it seems like, like the Jay Kelly conversation, like, yes, I think people are putting a placeholder for George Clooney because it is a movie built around like George Clooney's star persona, but also like most of the people I've talked to are very mixed on that movie. So like, I don't know, the holding a place for Chalamet is a little bit like maybe, but like also like I'm super excited about that movie, but I'm also a little raised eyebrow about being like, the Safdies are not like you're down the middle Oscar people. Like Uncut Gems was not like a major Oscar player for like as big as that movie, as like beloved as that movie was. And so me just being like, are we sure that's going to be an Oscar movie, or is that going to be like a weird, edgy Safdie Brothers movie that's
Film
like
bro movie. Yeah.
right? Like I don't know. I like the Wagnamera thing. Like we haven't seen that yet. I'm just sort of like I'm a lot of the best actor race. I'm seeing people like put these placeholders and like, well, we got to count this person. But then it's sort of like, I don't know, these keep dropping. Like maybe it's maybe we've seen most of the performances at this point, and
I
Let's give
feel
it to
sounds like
Michael
the
B.
fall
Jordan. All
festival
done.
has huh?
Well, I was gonna say, I feel like the buzz on these, like the presumptive buzz, like let's hang on and wait, is sort of hurting these smaller movies that aren't getting a chance because the reserve in case of like, the one that I've harped on a lot is David Strathairn in A Little Prayer. That it's this tiny indie movie that nobody saw that he's doing some of the best work of his career in, and he deserves to be the front runner right now, and not a peep. And I'm like, well, is that worth talking about Oscar Isaac for another couple of weeks? Like it's a little frustrating in that respect. But I'm with you on the Leo thing. I would, he's going to be okay regardless. But I would still like for him to win an Oscar for something that's not The Revenant. Like I'm tired of.
Oh my God, yes.
I'm tired of pretending that his Oscar is for Wolf of Wall Street or Catch Me If You Can instead of I Was Cold. Like.
Yeah, I would like it to go to a performance that like actually like moved and excited me, and not one that felt like Leo putting a gun to his head and saying like, I'm going to shoot unless you give me an Oscar, which is what The Revenant feels like to me.
It's his Sin of a Woman. It's his hoo-ah performance.
I mean, I still think, I think Jeremy Allen White, the Springsteen flick, sort of like, the Bob Dylan film last year, I think it's going to do at least decent box office. That kind of matters. That puts you. It means that people are talking about you a little bit more. I mean, like, I don't know that Marty Supreme's going to do huge box office. I mean, I know that, No Other Choice is not going to. I think Bugonia probably. Yorgos is just he can be tough at times.
That's another one where it sounds like this is maybe like a little bit more of like a Kinds of Kindness, not a Poor Things, of just sort of like a little bit of the like mean, I'm gonna like jab you in the side and then go like giggle off in the corner Yorgos Lanthimos experience.
Yeah, this is not The Favorite Yorgos.
No.
Right, exactly. So I think my bet is Jeremy Allen White is gonna get one of the spots. Frankly, seeing just trailers and commercials and the such, I'm like, yeah, he's playing Springsteen like really, really well. So
and he's poised
nervous.
to. Everybody loves the jump from TV to movies, and he's got all that.
I mean,
goodwill from
people
the bear.
love the bear. He's like, he's rivaling Chalamet for like sexy boy of the year and all that stuff. I just want to say I'm kind of nervous about that movie. What are you guys on as far as like expectations? I'm a little like, I'm excited for the Jeremy Allen White of it all, but and that's my favorite Springsteen album is Nebraska. But I'm also do not like the Scott Cooper experience, and I'm a little like worried with like some of the trailers where it's like Bruce has to think about his childhood before he gets on stage. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I think it's not going to be sort of a rousing like, oh, let's celebrate spring. It is like Springsteen, sort of at some of his darker, more reflective moments.
And I tortured think artist Springsteen.
Yeah, and I think that's going to be. I think audiences probably aren't aware that that's what they're going to be signing up for, and
we definitely know in the previews he sings "Born to Run" once. Like that's going to be in there at some point.
Probably at the very, very end. So
yeah.
All right, guys. So I guess we decided that the best actor race is too early, huh? And that Dwayne Johnson is not a lock.
I think he's a lock. I think he's a lock. I think this is just a narrative that, Hollywood loves. It's a transformation, like Josh said. I think The Rock is really good at, part of the problem with Dwayne Johnson for years is sort of the thing that might benefit him in an Oscar race, which is like he's very PR trained. and I feel like a lot of the bad movie decisions he's been making over the last decade or so, really since like Pain and Gain probably, or have been sort of him being like, I need to be the most likable, like vanilla down the middle version of myself. And
I need to protect the brand.
Right. And so he's not doing that in the movie, but I feel like that might come in handy when you're like having to go on like 8 talk shows a week and like promote your movie and be like, getting your name out there and like, like shaking hands at these like weird like backroom dinners and stuff like that. Like I can see it being a similar narrative to the like Brendan Fraser whale narrative of people just being like, I don't know, I just kind of like this guy and he like really put in a lot of effort and like let's give him an award.
So the one other thing I would say about it is, I guess I kind of hope that Dwayne Johnson at least gets a nomination, because I think to some extent it broke Adam Sandler when he didn't get a nomination for Uncut. That he put himself out there, a difficult role. I thought he did an incredible job in Uncut Gems. I thought he absolutely deserved it, and frankly, had he been nominated, I think I would have been pretty high on him as a potential winner of Best Actor. When he didn't even get a nomination, I think Sandler sort of went, all right, screw you guys, I'm going back to Netflix and making easy romantic comedies and remakes and stuff that is not, frankly, it's not moving the needle at all for me, especially not artistically. And I hope that Dwayne Johnson gets enough love for putting himself out there in this movie that he doesn't just go back to sleepwalking through the kind of stuff that he could sleepwalk through. I like for people to challenge themselves.
And it sounds like he's hopefully making that the next stage of his career. Wasn't he talking about working with Emily Blunt again with Scorsese or something in some Hawaii
one of
mob
the like
movie?
5 projects that Scorsese is like, circling at the moment, because there's also that one that like Leo's been saying that'll be him and Jennifer Lawrence and is like maybe inspired by Vertigo or something like that. Like, it's one of these of like, Marty's not getting any younger, but like Dwayne is like one of the people that's like, please, one of your final movies, like do one with me. Yeah.
All right, with that, we're going to wrap it up here on the latest edition of the Movie Joust podcast. I apologize. We didn't joust too much. We'll do our best next time. What do we got? Next week, it's still award season. We are deep in the thick of it.
Well, I did want to mention that in you're going to get a little bit of an extra episode, because a few weeks ago, really almost like a month ago at this point, we recorded an episode on the best movies of the 21st century to correspond with this list that the Atlanta Film Critics Circle is putting out, and it's just been sitting on my hard drive, and that list is like going out at the moment. I think by the time this episode goes up, it'll be fully out there, but you'll get a little bonus episode of us talking about the century in movies. But
century.
It's the 21st
it's 25
century.
years. So
25 years. Yeah. Let's see.
So through 2024, so the people that are like, where's Sinners? Where's One Battle After Another? Like, that'll be, we'll do that one in 25 more years.
I could have added another Paul Thomas Anderson movie to my list. If only I had known.
Yeah.
Something interesting about our list really quick is that I noticed there are not a lot of, like, Oppenheimer is the most recent film that made the top 25. And then after that, it's like something else from 2018. Like, our list skews towards films that are at least 10 years old.
Yeah. Early to mid 2000s. Yeah.
Yeah.
I think that makes sense. You get more, the longer that there's time, the clearer you can sort of see what the standouts
time
are.
To marinate a little bit.
Yeah. I mean, we're gonna talk Frankenstein in the coming weeks. Yeah. We're gonna talk Josh, I didn't see you there, but we're gonna talk House of Dynamite, Catherine Bigelow's return after what? It's been since 2017 that she's like had a movie.
It's been a while,
right?
Yeah. We got Tron. We'll see what wins out my love for Nine Inch Nails or my hatred for Jared Leto.
I'm gonna say Jared Leto Hive, unite, let's go.
Morbid time.
Lots is coming, folks. Stay jousting, and we hope you'll be listening. Thanks. Bye.